Hello everyone, welcome back to Painting with Martin. Today I'm looking at two miniatures from Halo Flashpoint, the board game from Mantic Games. I don't have the board game, but at Essen Spiel, Mantic Games were kind enough to supply me with these beautiful miniatures. So I could show you at least how to paint at least two figures from the Spartan team from Halo Flashpoint, the board game. It's a board game for two people, and it takes about 30 to 80, 90 minutes, depending how familiar you are with the game. And it's a miniature game where you move around trying to snipe out and shoot out the opponent's team, using, of course, these miniatures, two other miniatures as well in each team, so it's 4 miniatures in each team. And of course, there are lots of buildings and obstacles and debris across the battlefield. So I'm looking at two of these figures. I don't really know what they are. One of them here appears to be some kind of sniper, and this one appears to be some kind of scout or something like that. So I'm going to show you what I think they look like, and I'm using the kind of the basic art from the game itself, and I have that on a screen next to me. So unfortunately I can't show you what they look like, but you can Google it and see it online as well. So I'm going to start by this one, and I'm going to use a color that I find quite interesting, and I'm going to paint it mostly purple. So I'm going to use a contrast color from Citadel called Contrast Leviathon Purple for this one. I've used it before on the channel and I find it quite interesting. And I'm going to cover pretty much the entire miniature with the exception for the visor, as well as the gun itself. And for those of you wondering what about the black and parts of the miniature, that means I'm going to cover them later on. So let's give it a good shake and apply it neat across the whole miniature, except for the parts that I mentioned just now. And if you feel that this kind of video is something for you, then please consider liking, sharing and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me grow and also helps with visibility on YouTube, so I can show other people how easy it is and how fun it is to paint miniatures for both board games and miniature war games. So hopefully this one will dry fairly quickly. I don't intend to soak it through. I paint it with a steady hand and try to avoid, of course, the gun and the visor. And it gives fairly good coverage as it is. That means since I use a contrast paint, I don't have to use any kind of wash afterwards. And if you notice that I'm completely mistaken in covering this one in this color, please let me know in the comments. It really helps, so I can learn something from this video as well. Halo is, to me, associated with Microsoft Xbox. It's one of the games that I played in my youth, and it's been around for a while. And here I'm taking extra care not to touch the gun too much. If I do, I can make it up later on, but I try to avoid it. Try to be a little bit more careful here. And here around the visor, I'm going to try to move around the visor here, painting the back here, angling the miniatures as I see fit. And as I said, it's part of my youth. I really enjoyed playing Halo on the Xbox, but I think it's on the PC as well. It's quite an old game, and I'm surprised they haven't actually launched a detailed miniature war game until now. Don't forget, if you feel you're done, just make sure you cover everything and look underneath. Everything is nice. You don't want any white spots. I've actually primed this miniature using a Vallejo's white primer. You can use a darker primer as well, but if you want to use a contrast paint, you're going to have to go for something that is lighter, grey, or possibly, I'm touching the gun here slightly, but can't be helped. And on top of the visor here as well, outside the helmet, sorry. Make sure you cover everything here. Oops, dropped it a little bit, sorry about that. Can be a little bit tricky to get to, but once you've angling the miniature, you make sure you get everything here that is worth. And if you feel like you missed the spot here and there, you can easily cover it up later on. Okay, it looks very dark right now, and we're going to lighten it up in this couple of stages later on. So I'm going to put this one aside for a moment. I'm going to close the paint pot, leave it to dry, and as it dries, I'm going to clean my brush, making sure that I have no paint left on the palette. No paint left on the brush, making sure that I wipe it off completely off, and that's it. Now, moving on to the other one, I'm going to call it a Scout, just for easier, as an easy reference. And for this one, I'm going to show you a completely new technique that I took from, I learned from a master painter, the guy that really got me into miniature painting, called Sarastro. And by doing so, I'm going to use, this guy is actually a gold paint. You can paint it gold as it is, and then fill in the details with German grey. That's perfectly fine, perfectly all right to do so. But I'm going to show you a different technique, and by that I'm going to cover the entire miniature, except for the visor and the gun, with some Leadbelcher from Citadel. And Leadbelcher, I'll give it a good shake. And the reason for that is that, of course, I'm going to dilute it a little bit with water. Making sure it has time to dry. And I'm using a flat brush for this one. Closing the paint pot, of course, and wiping off the excess of the brush from the on a piece of kitchen roll. So I'm going to cover everything here except the visor and the gun. It's going to be covered in this color. Oh yeah, I'm not covering the knife here if I can. If I can here, then there's a knife here. If I can, I will avoid it. And try to apply, you can apply 1 or 2 layers with this one as you see fit, as long as you apply it and reach good even coverage across the whole miniature. Squeezing through past the paintbrush here so I can get in past the chest armor. Of course, the back and the top of the helmet. Taking extra care not to cover the visor and the areas on the front of the helmet as well, just like the other miniature in some way. And once this is dry, oops, I got covered the knife here by mistake. Looking like this, overly saturated with color. I'm going to see if I can zoom in here. I place this one over here. I can see if I can zoom in here. Then it looks like this, just the back side. Can zoom in with the others as well, which is drying fairly nicely, like this, oops, like this, going around. And while it's drying, I'm also going to cover now the gun. I'm going to zoom out here, sorry, zoom out. There you go. So of course I'm going to clean my brush with this one in a bit. I'm going to use this brush in a bit as well. But I'm going to cover the gun, and for the gun I'm going to use some German grey from Vallejo and give it a good shake, and then apply it neat on the gun. We're going to come back to this colour when we apply it for the other parts of the armour, but for now we are actually quite content just using it for the gun. And I'm using a size 2 brush for this one, but you can use a size 1 brush as well, depending how steady you are with the brush. So for this one, and it's a good way to make sure that paint dries completely while we're doing this. That's why I'm painting two miniatures at once. Normally I would have several miniatures of the same kind, like I did with the Space Marine. It really speeds up the video, and I can show you several times without waiting for the paint to dry. But since I don't have that now, I'm going to have to make do with what I have. And thank you again to Mantic Games for giving me these 2 miniatures for free. If you've guessed it, the rifles are going to be coloured with a metal colour similar to Leadbelcher afterwards, but I want to give them kind of a black finish or black background before this happens. And it's also a good opportunity to do something while the paint dries. If you've played Halo Flashpoint and you want to tell me a little bit more about the game, please consider doing so in the comments. And the more comments the video gets, the higher up it gets on the algorithm for YouTube, and it can help people find my channel and also find a way to how to paint these miniatures. And there's a little bit left on the other side here. I'm angling the miniature just so I can reach. You may have to do the same, but just for you to know, it may not show on the video so great, but I'm doing it only for my sake so I can get it all done. Okay, the visor we're going to leave as it is for a moment. As you can see, the paint is almost dried here, so we can go in for the next stage quite soon. But not yet. This one here is not yet dried, so while it's drying, I'm gonna go over and paint the gun here on this one as well. So using the same technique as before, same brush, size 2, which I picked on I think Amazon or Temu. Normally I don't do this, but I just wanted to see, does it actually hold up for basic miniature painting? And it does. It's not the best. I use this one as what we call a beta brush. I don't really care much about it because they cost me something like less than $1 or $2. But if you have really good brushes, you can really have to take good care of them and making sure they don't wear out or something like that. So I'm loading my brush with very little paint at the same time, making sure it doesn't get up all the way up here to the ferrule, because the ferrule here if it gets into the ferrule, it can really break and damage the brush, even if it's just a beta brush. So they last a lot longer if you don't get paint inside there. Eventually you might, and then there are ways to simply try to clean it, or you can turn it into a dry brush if it's completely broken. and I think I will do a video about that one. So already it's starting to look a little bit better. Making sure I don't miss any details. All right, looking quite okay. Let me see, is this one actually dried? I'm checking with my hand here and my finger and pressing into it looks like it's fairly dried. So while this one is actually drying, I'm going to clean my brush, making sure it's nice and clean. And then I'm going to go back to my old brush here that I used for the Leadbelcher. I'm going to wipe most of the paint off. And then I'm going to come back to a dry range of paint from Citadel called Necron Compound. I'm going to use this one and dry brush the entire miniature with this one to make sure I get good even coverage. And just to make sure that I don't miss a spot or to make sure that everything is nice and even. And just like, it's a very technical paint, so I want to make sure that you know the technique dry brushing, which just means you soak it in paint, and then of course you wipe most of it off. You go over it like this. Using an old brush. Something like this, all right? And looking like this, then we're going to see if this one is dried. It's almost dried, there's a little bit of details inside the nooks and crannies here, where the sun hasn't been able to shine. Let me see if I can see how badly it is. Oh yeah, it's fairly dried. You can use a small kitchen towel here to dry it extra fast if you like, which I'm doing now. Not really recommended if you have the time. And let's see if I can do this here. Yeah, it looks fairly okay. Okay, so this one is soon almost ready to go into the next stage, but this one here is actually ready, and we are going to do a wash for this one, and we're going to use Seraphim Sepia from Citadel for this one. We're going to soak the entire miniature on it, except of course the visor as well as the gun, and we'll give it a good shake like this off camera here, so it doesn't shake up the entire setup here. And that means you soak the entire miniature with this one, and the reason with this one is going to give a nice gold finish. Let me see if you can see this. And it's already coming to life here. And by doing so, you also get to see where all the part of the armor is supposed to be, so you can actually use that as a guide to where you're going to place the other color. And you want to make sure it pulls in the recesses, not on the flat surfaces. So as you come along, you'll notice that this technique can be used for painting other gold elements as well. Don't forget the groin, anything around. Anything that is now silverish needs to be covered in this wash. And I think usually about 1 layer of this one should be enough. Don't let it pool on the surfaces here, and wipe it off and move it around as you see fit. Right, looking quite okay. Gonna leave it to zoom in for you guys a little bit so you can see what it looks like. Turning it around for you, and showing it like this. And now I'm going to zoom out again. Leave this one to dry for a good few minutes. Cleaning my brush. And now it's back to the sniper. Now the sniper here has, I noticed there are a little bit of things here that I forgot to cover with the gunmetal, so I'm going back now the German grey, so I'm doing that first. So when this one is now it's done, now I can go back to the rest of the miniature. It's really dark and it shouldn't be that dark. So what we're going to do, which is of course we're going to close this paint pot first so we don't get Seraphim Sepia all over our board. We're going to use a dry brush using Genestealer Purple from Citadel. Give it a good shake, and then see we have this color, which means it's closer to the other one, and we're going to use it to dry brush it. And dry brushing again, explain the technique, which is nice. And that means we're going to go back to my special dry brush, which is used for this one. It's from Mini Warpaint. It's the Citadel range, I believe. And I'm using this one if I want more control. So first, we're going to dry brush we start with the lower armor pieces. And we also touch up, going up over here, and already we're starting to produce some results. Using it over the whole miniature, touching the raised areas, leaving some of the original Leviathon purple in the shadows, and already starting to come to life, the sniper. Now it's time to apply some more paint. Go up to the back again, making sure we don't leave any area really. Sometimes it's necessary to apply some more paint on the brush, making sure it doesn't get too empty. And want to try to avoid the gun here. And if you feel that one area is too dark, you can lighten it a little bit more with this one. So now looking a little bit better, but of course it's not entirely done. This is just the first step. And this one is also still drying here, so we're focusing heavily on this one for now, until the paint is almost entirely dry. So now we're going to go into the meticulous areas of coloring and separate the purple areas from the rest of the body armor. And we do that by actually applying some German grey to the small parts of the body armor. And it's sometimes really hard to see what is part of the body armor and what's actually not. But we can actually see the joints behind the knees, and the elbows will actually not be in this color. So we clean our dry brush, so it's ready for the next stage afterwards, because we can use it for the other miniature as well. And then we go back to our small brush, and this time we're using a size 0 brush for this one to apply a small detailed brush for the joints here. We also have, I'm taking some liberal paint here, a liberal artistic freedom here to paint his groin in this color. And don't forget the other knee, behind the knee, and behind the feet here. It's a very subtle effect. But once we get to the next stage, we are going to highlight the purple armor a little bit more. Here on the back, it's also, don't forget the spine here is supposed to be purple, I think. And going up to the top here, in between here, it's supposed to be this German grey. The joints here. It's already looking much, much better, in my opinion. I'm using this one neat. And of course the gloves are going to be in this color as well, as per the card art. Almost blending in to the gun. And now we know where to place our next focal details when it comes to the rest of the miniature and the highlights here. So we're still not, now I'm going to take a look at the picture and see if we've missed any part that needs to be in this color. I may have. This is designed to be a reference, not a complete, total and perfect guide in any manner. So let's have a look at the visor, shall we? Now, before we go into the visor is going to be in kind of like the blue manner. But I want to go over the areas again and paint with some pure Genestealer Purple. And the reason for that is that I want them to pop more. Then the dry brush areas will be underneath. And then therefore you can see the pieces of armor here that this person is wearing. Put this one to the side. Here's some kind of pack here that you can paint the raised areas only to accentuate them. And also I'm guiding this one as to where the light would be. The light will be coming to, so the lightest areas are going to get more color. So the top of the helmet can be in a few stages. So I'm going to paint it around here to make sure that it forms some kind of pattern around the visor. As you can see here. Now for the chest armor, I'm painting this one in this color as well, leaving the recesses with the darker color and dry brushed. It's quite a time-consuming part, but it really makes the miniature stand out more. On the battlefield. Going back here to the back side. And by leaving some of the shadows in the recesses here, you can form individual pieces of armor that is getting more attention. Also some kind of backpack or jetpack or whatever it is, like shoulder straps, can be painted out with this one. As well as the individual pieces of the spine. And the belt. Now we're going back here to paint a second layer. And decided also to give this one here, the shins, a little bit more some attention. Now the shoes, or the boots I should probably say, also deserve some attention. This one here deserves more attention than the other one here, because it actually has less sunshine on it. And it's very easy to check that. You can actually hold it up here towards where the light is coming from, and then you can see where you should actually place the details. Here you have the we forgot here, we have the arm guard, as well as this one here, a little bit of it like this. Okay, looking quite okay already, and mostly, I wouldn't say done, but getting there in terms of purple and pink, or purple and dark purple. Now we are going to turn our attention here to the visor, but I want to check first if this one, the other one, is dried. And it appears to be mostly dry, but not entirely yet, so we're leaving this one to the side for a moment. There's still plenty of things to be done. For the visor, it's supposed to be some kind of light bluish. And for this one, I'm going to experiment. Never used this before. You can use Aethermatic blue from Citadel's contracts, right? Or you can use Pylar Glacier as well, which we're going to try here. It's a very bluish color, so we'll see if this one works, and we'll find out soon enough if it does. So the visor here is in one, that's why I left it in white. And you might need several layers with this one. Leaving it to dry in between, and then at the same time we can go over the gun with some Leadbelcher. And the gun can be either dry brushed, or we can pick out the details. So let's do some dry brushing again with the gun. A heavy dry brush over the gun. Looking fairly okay. And you can go back and do the same thing for the other gun here as well, for the other figure. So it looks we're still on the same page. So here, like this. As you can see, the Aethermatic blue, the skyish Pylar Glacier, that's the one. Pylar Glacier is coming along quite nicely, but we still want another layer of it. And you need to build up the layers like this. Or you can do another technique and simply paint it pure blue. Something like this. Now, he actually has some gold details of his armor as well. And while we're talking about gold, which is pure details, the color we're going to use for this one is called Retributor Armor from Citadel. Retributor Armor will give us a nice tiny dots of armor. And this one here will be around his face, and also a few small dots on the armor over here. Small dots, only small dots. You also have it, looking at the picture, you also have the dots, taking on my glasses so I can see, over here. very, very subtle, as well as up over here too, and the other side as well. We're leaving this one aside for a moment, and we'll see how this one will pan out. So I'm going to go over to this one here again, and we're going to see how will this one actually work. Now the thing is, you can pick out the individual pieces of armor with gold here, or you can do a dry brush. So I'm going to show you how the first step, which is more time consuming, and pick out the individual pieces of armor like this, and the opposite of the other one. Using the same technique as we did before. This time it's the opposite. We actually have the wash. We can see exactly where the pieces of German grey is going to go. This one is almost finished, so we can switch the paint jar so we can have more paint available to us. Using a small thin layer is useful here to pick out all the raised areas, making sure we don't hide any details. As you can see, it's coming along quite nicely. Going over to the shoes here, see if I can angle the miniature here for you guys so you can see the shoes. Or the boots, actually, I should say. And I still haven't painted the German grey yet, which will be contrasting quite nicely with the gold colour. Moving over to one of the centerpieces of armor here, some kind of weapon perhaps. Those who've played the game, please consider telling me if I make mistakes here. Or say the wrong words. This is also a fairly new game. I saw it in Essen Spiel. Didn't have a chance to play it, but it looked really, really cool. It's available on pre-order for the second wave. So there will be a link in the description box to Mantic Games. So if you're really interested in this game, you can take a look at it. Yeah, the top of the helmet here, I'm going to highlight it even further once this one is done. And on a scale from like 1 to 10 to how to paint these, I'm going to give these ones almost a 10. They're one of the best miniatures and one of the most fun miniatures I've painted in a long time. Alright, looking quite okay. Just a few steps of details left. Alright, we can go into and paint the grey armor part as well. Let's wash this one here. Let's go back to this one, see if this one coming along quite nicely. It is, quite nicely. I'm going to apply one more layer of this one before we go over to the other one so it has time to dry. This one here actually has German grey in the facial details, but we're actually going to go in and paint the parts where there's German grey here, which means painting over some of the gold parts. But this is actually now coming on to the final details of this video. I want to thank you for staying with me for such a long time, listening to my monotonous voice. And make sure you get the German grey not on the gold parts of the armor, but actually where it's supposed to belong here. Can be a bit tricky to get to it. Don't forget the back side here. As my watch tells me, probably I need to stand up or something like that. Activity watch. Switching to more stable brush, more expensive one. Allows me to give me a little bit more control. And the back side here is quite important. Make sure you don't touch the gold spine, which we so meticulously painted before. And the contrast between the dark grey here, German dark grey, and the gold part, I think is really striking. In between here, some of the gold armor. Double check and see if I'm on par with them. Looks like I am. The torso here is black in armor for parts of it. Something to consider for this one, perhaps as well. Underneath the helmet, and now for the helmet visor, we're going to paint this with German grey, same color as we're using now. So anything around it, including the top rim here, I believe. I'll double check that. Yep, I was right. Including the thing here that looks like Darth Vader, or Stormtrooper mask. See here one more time. Yes. The center of the thing here has to be black here as well, all the way, or German grey. Make sure that it's quite even. So each side here is going to be different. Making sure you have nothing missed. Go back over here, I missed a detail of gold, which is this part. And you can also easily paint over some of the mistakes here we made. Alright, now it's time for the visor. For the visor, we're going to use Aethermatic blue from Citadel's contrast range. Again, it's going to take a few layers. And I think it's going to have the right color. Right from the start. Having this one, once it dries, you might have to apply another layer, as we did previously with the other sniper trooper. I'm going to put this one to the side, leave this to dry, and go over to the other one here and looking over it and making sure I haven't missed any details. But it looks quite okay. I missed the detail on the spot here on the top of the head, so I'm going to fix this one, make sure that it looks nice. It looks nice there. Can go over a few of the details here. Here it's too much of the gold, so I'm going to cover it up. and covering some of these things, some of the layers again with a second layer. You can do this as many times as you see fit. I'm using the paint neat. You can dilute it if you like, depending how even you want the coverage. We're now coming up to close to an hour, but there is a small detail here, which is the knife. And for the knife, I've chosen to use some Mournfang brown for the scabbard, which will help it stand out a little bit more. An organic color, which is nice. Looking like this quite nicely. And for the rifle, if I look at the art of the card, art of the gun, there are some details as well that we need to address. And for this one, we're going to use some silver from Vallejo. And we're going to point out some individual details only of the gun. Like the aiming points. And small, like just a few small dots. Can also do that here on the helmet visor. As well as a few small dots on the armor that needs extra attention, extra details. Make it help it stand out a little bit more. These steps are entirely optional and not necessary if you want to just put them on the table. Looking like this, we can also put a few steps here in the center of the visor. This one is mostly done. We missed a few spots of armor on his center here, which is going to be, first we're going to go over to same thing here as for the gun. His sniper scope can be more in silver. The trigger as well as the end of the gun barrel, giving it a little bit of some more details. I'm going to go over one more last time. His chest piece of armor here seems to be in pure silver. Otherwise, we're looking at a done miniature in terms of the miniature themselves. Now, I'm going to close the paint pots and we're going to apply some basing material. For the basing material, I've chosen to use some Grelland earth. I'm going to take it off and use my spatula tool from Army Painter. Hopefully it won't drip. I'm going to paste it over the base of the miniature. Only then to use a brush to move it around to give it a nice look. Put this aside. If you get something on the boots, that's okay because it can count as dirt. And then you just need to paint the rim of the base as well. Oopsie. Seems like I've got too much on it, and now I ruined some of it. It happens when I'm clumsy. It means we have to go back and fix some details, or we can just leave it as dirt. My apologies for this. This is what happens when you're clumsy like me. Set this one aside for a moment. Yep, it will come out as dirt. Now we're going to use a careful approach to this one. Okay, this one turned out to be quite nice. I'm quite pleased with it. Now, I'm going to see if I can fix this one with some clean brush. Move the paint away. That also gives you an opportunity to see that even I make mistakes like this. Not what I wanted, but we can actually fix it by going over the miniature again with some Genestealer Purple. Of course it got over this one as well. No. He really was out in the fight. Not what I wanted. So this one is a battle scarred miniature. A dirty one. See, you can paint it over a little bit lighter. You learn from these mistakes. Hopefully I will learn from this one not to use a spatula like that again, only a brush. Fortunately it's on the back side except for this one here, which is on the helmet visor, which I worked so hard for. Could have been worse though. Alright, that's the best we can do. If you like these kind of miniatures, and if you like watching me make mistakes as well, and hoping that I didn't ruin this whole miniature video for you, thank you very much for watching. And this is, as I said before, this is Halo Flashpoint, the board game or miniature game from Mantic Games. So, available for pre-order. Please check the link in the description box below, and thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel to help me reach out to more viewers. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.